Hello there, my RPG lovers, and welcome to another video. The combat in Gothic Remake can be annoying and brutal at the same time, especially in the beginning of the game. I invested a pretty good amount of hours so far and tested out various combat moves, tactics, weapon types, and so on. And I figured out the best and the easiest way to deal with the most basic enemies that you're going to fight in the early game. The best part about it, you can use a weapon that you can get for free in the first 10 minutes of the game. And I'm going to show you why this axe is definitely the most OP weapon in the beginning, even on the hard difficulty. By the way, all of the footage you see in this video is from hard difficulty. If you're playing on lower difficulties, the results will probably be slightly different, mostly in terms of damage dealt and damage received. Even so, you can use this knowledge to your advantage regardless of the difficulty. First of all, I recommend turning off Close Combat Flow Helper. This is supposed to help you perform combos with only one button, but they are not actually combos and it's just going to confuse you. It's not going to help you learn how the combat works at all, so turn it off. For some reason it's turned on by default. That being said, let's talk about attack types. All weapons have 4 different attacks. Left and right directional attacks and 2 extra attacks which are different depending on the weapon type. All of these attacks are mapped to different buttons, but you can combine them at the end of the animation for a combo. That's not so important in this beginner combat guide, and you'll quickly see why. It's more relevant with higher skill levels. We are going to start off with fighting beasts and animals, then move on to human NPCs. In the early game, the most common enemies you will fight are mole rats, green goblins and scavengers. Well, actually you can fight a lot more enemies than that, but it's simply not recommended, because you almost don't stand a chance. Mole rats are always the same and they can easily be dealt with, but scavengers can be a pain in the ass, until you learn how to fight them properly. This bird is pretty much everywhere and easily the most common enemy you will fight all the time, so learning how to deal with them should be very helpful. Here is the easiest way to deal with these pesky little birds. They come in 3 variants: juvenile, basic scavengers, who are much bigger and stronger, and the strongest adult type, way stronger than previous 2. You should simply avoid the strongest adult version in the beginning of the game until you get some levels and gear under your belts. Let me show you how you can easily deal with even groups of scavengers and then talk about what they did. As you could probably tell, it's all about the uppercut attack, which is mapped on Y, triangle or Q if you're playing with mouse and keyboard. This attack with the one-handed axe is basically a cheat code in the beginning, and you can use it with the first axe that you find for free. I will show you how to do that at the end of the video because it's a light spoiler, so I'll give you the chance to skip it. But it's very easy to find, and most players will probably stumble upon it eventually. It's called withered axe and it deals 13 damage. The uppercut attack, as I like to call it with one-handed axes, is pretty fast, even on the untrained skill level. It's faster than using the same attack with clubs or swords, which have a completely different attack on the same button and they are not that useful in the beginning. As you could see in all of these clips, you can just hit them once, move back a little bit, let them come closer and do it again. Rinse and repeat until all of them are dead. The footage you're watching is from level 1 character, 10 strength, hard difficulty and the first axe you can find. If you want to be more aggressive, you can follow up this attack with left and right swings, but I only recommend doing this if the scavenger has less than 50% of health left, and if you're fighting a single enemy. Fighting multiple enemies in this game at once is very hard, even when you get some proper skills and weapons, let alone in the beginning. You should try to avoid it as much as possible and isolate enemies. Easier said than done though, but the bow should help a lot with this. Either to try and kill one of the enemies or separate them from the group. In fact, if you have arrows, it's always the best to start a fight with a ranged weapon and switch to melee when needed. You will be forced to use melee weapons a lot, so the more you learn about how they work, the better. But you won't be able to avoid crowded fights in a lot of situations, so what is the best way to deal with them? Blocking attacks becomes essential here, because it's a very powerful defensive ability. Unlike in the original game, the remake allows you to hold the block button and absorb large quantities of damage. Even against some stronger enemy NPCs, as a level 1 character with no skills or gear, you can still block a couple of attacks and not die. It's way better than your little hippity hop that's supposed to be a step dodge. When you learn the proper dodge, it's a game changer, but until then, this move can only be useful situationally. Most enemies will be able to hit you either with weapons or basic attacks, and they will easily close that little gap that you create with the step dodge. It's not completely useless though, but it's just not reliable, and you will die a lot if you focus on it instead of blocking. For example, wolves have this slow but long jumping attack, which can easily be avoided with the step dodge to the sides. Or when you're fighting mole rats, you can easily step back and avoid their special underground attack. Green goblins have a very annoying rock throw attack, and you should definitely try to avoid it by step dodging to the sides. If you do it right after you see the rock leave their hand, you will always dodge it. Yeah, step dodge is useful against green goblins even in a fight, and just in general against enemies with very short attack range. You can use this step back tactic against pretty much all small enemies in the game, and combine it with a slam attack on A, X or E if you're on the keyboard. When you start fighting a group of scavengers or most other enemies, you can still use the same tactic like before. But you also have to block between the uppercut attacks. Sometimes it won't work, because the hero is very slow to put his guard up with the untrained skill level. But just make sure to press it immediately after the attack if you see you're going to get hit. This gives you the highest chance to survive, but you're also going to die quite a bit. When you get hit once, you usually get hit twice, by someone else in a group, and this is almost a certain death in the beginning. The animation commitment is very long on this skill level, so you have quite a bit of time to press the block, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. You can also get stunned, but even then you probably won't die immediately because of the block, if you manage to block the next attack. Just don't forget how useful blocking is in this game. It can save your life in most situations. The withered axe is without a doubt the best early weapon in the game for a couple of reasons. I already showed you one of the reasons, but now let's talk about the second one. Slamming attack with one-handed axes has the biggest range out of all weapon types. This attack is mapped on A, X or E if you're using a keyboard. It has an amazing range and it's not that slow. It has a greater range than the stab attack with the sword and faster speed than clubs. In the early game, it's very useful against human NPCs and just in general when you learn how to predict the range. Which brings us to fighting human NPCs. The withered axe won't be enough to stun even the weakest human NPCs, so your approach is a little bit different here. The very first thing you need to learn when fighting human enemies is the positioning and baiting. Yeah, rage baiting, pretty much. If you try to play defensively and bait attacks by simply moving closer and stepping back, you will get the opener for your attacks. Well, at least one attack. Hitboxes are pretty fair in this game, which allows you to step out of the range of enemy weapons with precision. Just don't get too cocky. Once you learn how to do this properly, the difficulty of fighting human NPCs become much lower, especially in one-on-one fights. If you're patient enough, you can even deal with medium-strong human NPCs. Again, all of this on level 1, with no skills whatsoever. But even some of those weak human NPCs will have trained weapon skill and combos that you have to worry about. If you get caught by the first attack, there is literally no chance of avoiding the second one because of the stun lock. This will change a little bit when you finally increase your weapon skill because all of your attacks and animations get faster. When you start facing human NPCs with much faster and stronger attacks, that's a completely different situation. By then you will have the ability to parry, do crits and more damage in general. But that's a topic for an advanced combat guide, which I plan to do as well. until you learn the first one-handed weapon skill, get some more strength and stronger weapons, you should avoid enemies like wolves, lizards, lurkers, or even bloodflies. Not to mention some stronger enemies like snappers, orcs, strong human NPCs, and a plethora of other enemy types. Again, I'll leave that for the advanced combat guides. The damage your weapon deal is very important. I mean, obviously, the damage is very important, but not only as a pure number. Gothic Remake has some sort of a hidden stun bar for all NPCs and the player that we could even see in some earlier gameplay footage. The uppercut attack I was showcasing the most obviously deals the most stun damage, but the amount of damage you deal seems to directly affect the stun damage as well, according to my testing, so far at least. I'm pretty sure that's the case. The withered axe has 13 damage, which is at least 1 point of damage stronger than most other weapons you can get in the beginning, more than basic clubs or swords you can find. However, no matter which weapon you use, if your damage is high enough, you will easily stun enemies with uppercut attack. I don't know the exact values of damage needed, but this seems to be the case. So even increasing your strength should give you more stun damage, not only getting new weapons. Another interesting thing about the uppercut attack, it will send enemies to the ground when you increase your weapon skill for the first time. So it turns into an even stronger and a better stun, which is kind of crazy. Now I'm going to show you where to find the withered axe, but if you want, you can skip these parts. It's also related to a side quest in the old camp, so if you wish to find this place by yourself, skip to the next segments. It's a minor spoiler, but still. The axe can be found in the same cave where Neck is, a dead guard from the old camp. It's very close to the old camp from the second entrance. You will need to kill a couple of mole rats and get the axe off the ground. And that will be it for this simple little guide. I hope it helped you understand the basic mechanics and what's the best way to deal with most common enemies in the early game. Make sure to stick around for my full review and some more videos about the Gothic Remake. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe for more content like this. And if you want to go a step further, consider supporting your boy by becoming a YouTube channel member or a Patreon. Huge thanks to all my current supporters, and I'll see ya in the next one.